Well, I can tell you that we're almost getting to the end. You recall the last time we had an interaction, I told you that the wheel of democracy grinds very slowly, but at the end of the day, it provides the opportunity for people to ventilate their grievances and to also express their views, because at the end of the day, democracy is about what the majority believe should happen. But in our own case, I also have listened to your analysts in the House where they queried why we'll be spending so much time going after our wonderful governor, performing governor, Yeson Wike and others. I will need to refer them to the book of Matthew in 18, verse 10 to 14, or the book of Luke, chapter 15, verse 1 to 7. Jesus Christ was very clear when he told the Pharisees that if you have 100 sheep and you lose one, that it will not be out of place to, first of all, leave the 19 that are intact, the 99 that are intact, and then go after that one. And at the end of the day, when you're able to bring back that one, there is a tendency that you will rejoice. What we are doing, we have made it clear that we want to carry everybody along. Article 6 is not going to leave anybody behind, just as was clearly explained by Jesus Christ in the book of Matthew 18, 10 to 14. And so what we are doing is to ensure that everybody come on board. You do recall that not long ago, we inaugurated the Presidential Campaign Council, and that means that the train have left the station. But we are very, very mindful of the fact that as we move along this track ahead of the 2023 general elections, we will stop at different stations, and in each of the stations, we will believe that new passengers will come on board. Old passengers that were reluctant ab initio when we took off from the station will also be allowed to come on board. I'm sure we'll impress it on them to come on board, because we need to carry everybody along. But beyond the issue of the votes, Atiku is interested in carrying everybody along, even after, by the grace of God, he has won the election. Because one of the challenges you have today is the inability of the APC to carry all Nigerians along. And that is why you are seeing a whole lot of agitations here and there. So if you look at our 5-point agenda, you will understand why Atiku is very much interested in talking to everybody. We want to start from this period of the campaign and not after he has won the election. And that is why we are urging all Nigerians, including those who are non-aligned, to see the need to embrace Atiku Abubakar and Ifeanyi Okowa in the quest to govern Nigeria from 2023. I also I must commend your commentators who have come to review the headlines this morning. You heard when they made it clear that Atiku is the only one that has been able to bring up a manifesto, which I call a working document titled My Covenant with Nigerians. And in that manifesto, he has made it clear what he wants to do. And what he's doing now, which is trying to carry everybody along, is part of his desire to unite Nigerians. And so we are very, very pleased. And we must also commend all these other governors who have remained in the party, even while they continue to express what they would have preferred to happen in the party. We can assure you that at the end of the day, the PDP will move as one family that is interested in having a cohesive force, in addition to bringing other Nigerians on board with a view to reversing the ugly situation that we find our country today. So be rest assured that in the not too distant time, you see a very, very peaceful PDP.
That you've mentioned, say, almost getting there, will move as one party. Whereas you see a lot of political parties, let's use the clearest example that Majid gave, Labour Party, already in the field, having an organic campaign that has superseded itself. Now, knowing that the PDP is an opposition and so much is expected of it from as a party, and that Nigerians would often look to that direction, but seeing the lack of internal unity, do you think that PDP can regain the trust of the youth population to even begin with? And when will they start campaigning officially?
Well, in terms of campaigning officially, we are starting from Uyo on Monday. That is where we are flagging up the presidential campaign. But even before then, we have started the process of campaigning. Don't forget that INEC lifted the veil on the 28th of last month, and we were the only party that was able to come up with a presidential campaign council that was inaugurated. Others are still thinking whether they need one or whether they are fighting over who should be or not a member of their campaign council. Beyond that, I'm sure you saw what happened in Ogun State yesterday, where we also have a rally, and then you saw the mammoth crowd. We are very much excited about what's happening across the length and breadth of the country. You mentioned the Labour Party. We are happy that they have also helped to energize a number of Nigerians. What democracy and indeed our constitution allows is that individuals are very free to make attempt to govern or to seek for offices for the purpose of adding value to both our democracy and our country. So what is happening is not out of place, but we are quite confident that in the course of time, a number of Nigerians, particularly the youth, those who may not have come on board, because we do have a whole lot of them in our fold in the party, but we believe that in the course of time, they will see the difference between what happened in 2015 and what is going to happen in 2023. Because you recall in 2015, there was a whole lot of euphoria that made it difficult for people to actually assess what the issues are. They were just interested in regime change. And when we had that regime change, without interrogating what those who are coming on board are bringing on board, it turned out to what it is today. And of course, in the last 7 years, the story is better told by those of you who are in the media. And then when you also look at what is happening now, there seems to be a whole lot of euphoria. And like I mentioned earlier, just like your reviewers, that Atiku has been able to see what he's going to do. It's not a question of mentioning what the challenges are like others are doing. Well, we do know that Nigerians appreciate what the challenges are, because it's just like that animal that received a bullet in the head. At the end of the day, you are not in a better position to narrate to that animal the pains that it may have experienced in the course of that bullet hitting that animal on the head. So Nigerians have, by themselves, experienced the pain of the last 7 years. You also do know that since the return of democracy, there are a number of persons who did not even know what we went through during the military years. And so the only thing they know, their consciousness only started from the last 7 years. And so when they look at the last 7 years, their story more like flow along the line of what Chimamanda Adichie referred to as the danger of a single story. The story they now have is the story of the APC and the last 7 years. They didn't know the transformation that happened in the first 16 years of our return to democracy, and how from a nascent democratic experience, we were able to bring in a whole lot of things. I'm talking, and when I use the word we here, I'm referring to the PDP, was able to bring in a whole lot of innovations. A number of the things we're enjoying today, including my ability to be able to speak to you from Asaba while you are in Abuja, is because the PDP made it possible for us to liberalize the communication sector. You record that time, you have to possibly take your mat and then go to a night maybe where they have a phone booth. That is, if you are lucky, you'll be able to talk to anybody you want to call. And that is if the network will even allow you. But I am happy that the PDP, by the grace of God, will return. A number of the issues will return. Yes, you may want to say there were mistakes in that 16 years. It's expected, because we were just returning to democracy. A whole lot of individuals were beginning to learn the traits that how to come about democratic issues. And so we are quite confident that the number of these persons you think are not in our fold will, in the course of time, realize that the PDP is that party that have got the ability to unite us, is that party that have also got the strength to be able to tackle most of the challenges we have. And most importantly, the presidential candidate of the PDP and the vice presidential candidate are individuals who have got enough experience to be able to deal with the many challenges confronting us today as a country.
All right, Atiku, your presidential candidate, is known as a unifier, or is said to be a unifier, a reason the PDP chose him as the candidate in the first place. But then many people will be asking critical questions when the campaign starts, in earnest with the PDP. If you cannot unify your party, as little as your party, which is your home, then, and it has taken so long for the problems to be addressed, how then would you be, unifying the country, which is already disintegrated along ethnic and religious lines at the moment?
Well, I have mentioned a while ago, and I give you the parable as it is in Matthew chapter 18, verse 10 to 14, and then Luke 15, 1 to 7, and the issue of having to go after individuals who may not have fallen in line. But beyond that, assuming without considering that what you just said is the situation, I will also want to take you back to the Bible and then the story of Jesus Christ, the author and finisher of our faith, that Judas betrayed him out of 12. Does not in any way vitiate the holy nature and the inability of Jesus Christ to coordinate. And so he had 12. One of them decided to go astray to the extent of betraying him. So if you have over 200 million Nigerians and you have a few persons not falling in line, that does not in any way mean that you are not able to bring people together. I will also give you another example. You remember the man Abdul Muttalib? He was able to train his son very well. He sent him abroad, a privilege a number of us didn't have. And in the course of time, what happened? The son became an underwear bomber. That does not in any way mean that Abdul Muttalib did not do his best. But what is happening in the PDP is that the leadership of the PDP at the moment is not even leaving those people behind. You see what's happening in APC. Even those who oppose them, I can mention the likes of former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara. I can also mention the likes of Babachi Lawan, the former SGF, and what is happening in the APC. Instead of going for them and pleading with them, what is the party saying? They are giving them names. They are calling them all sorts of names and accusing them of betraying the party. They have not even made any attempt to go for those persons and get them back into their fold. And that is the kind of governance they have carried on in the last 7 years. The moment you disagree with them, they give you a name and allow you to fall by the wayside. But in the PDP, what we are doing is that even if you disagree, we see it as one of the things that happens in any democratic setting. And if it is one of the things that happen in a democratic setting, what we are doing is also take those democratic processes to speak with these our brothers. So anybody who may not be happy that Atiku Abubakar have continued to plead with our wonderful governor in Rivers and 4 others in Oyo, in Enugu, in Abia, or in Benue, the reason why we continue to plead with them is because we're interested in moving along with everybody. Even if the train of the campaign have left the station, like I mentioned earlier, that train is very much willing to stop at every bus stop to pick up those who believe we will add strength. It is not just about the votes. And beyond, if you also look back in 2015, if you are looking at governors and say, no, that you don't need the structure, you saw what happened to PDP in 2015 when a number of governors left the fold of the party. A governor is not just a vote. A governor have got the ability to put together, particularly governors who have performed. So when you lose a governor, you have not just lost a vote, you have lost a state. It means that that state is no longer in your fold. In any case, when we say a state is PDP or a state is APC, it is not the voters you are looking at. You are looking at the man who is in charge. For instance, even in Imo, where many people believe that the governor there is a Supreme Court governor, which they call him, I don't know whether that is the truth or not, it's called APC state, even when it was believed that PDP had a higher number of votes. So where the governor be, even if the governor leaves your party and he moves to another party, they will not remember the votes that brought him to power. They will count that state as the state that belongs to that party that governor moves to. So it's not just a question of saying we should just leave the governors behind that other persons are. In any case, those individuals you are saying that they are moving on and they are not interested in structure, it is because they don't have one. It is up to them to begin to build that structure. When we get to the river, we will be able to know those who have the buckets to be able to fetch the water. At that time, you will record that it is important to have a bucket. And bucket in this instance representing the structure. And so beyond the structure, we have got a candidate that have got the ability to do what he says he's going to do. We have got a candidate who is not only identifying the challenges because he believes that the challenges are very well known, but a candidate who has been able to provide solutions to those challenges. And we are not even scared that individuals will copy what we say we are going to do. Let them copy, but I can assure you they are not going to be able to paste properly. Because it's one thing to copy, but it's another thing to paste and paste it properly.
All right. So I hear you say candidate with ability, but then beyond ability is the possibility to interpret that ability into real time. And I go back to where you talked about structure and the need for, you know, the agreement within the party rankings with the governors who are aggrieved. I know that, yes, structure is important, but let's move from this ravaging of, you know, running around individuals to the real space. Isn't it time that the PDP looks at the organic demography of the youths of Nigeria, where conversations are no longer just about political party structure, but about real-time participation and deliverables by political parties? And so you heard Majid here say it is time to move from all of these wranglings and go into the space, tell Nigerian youths and the Nigerians as it may, what the PDP has to do for Nigerians rather than focusing on this issue. Do you think that this is not wasting the time of PDP in its entirety? Because by the time you are done, campaigns would have been offset, middle ground, and you probably would have lost good time.
Adora, I know that you play very well in the social spheres, and you know when somebody wants to marry and he goes about looking for a wedding planner, it's not because he's interested in marrying that person who is going to plan the wedding. It is because with the wedding planner, he's able to have a very beautiful wedding, so that at the end of the day, by the time the guests arrive, they are well treated and very well seated. The structure is the wedding planner. The youth you are talking about, we're able to also reach them even through the structure. So far, we have started meeting with the youth. The vice presidential candidate and the presidential candidate have had different fora, held meetings and sessions with the youth across the length and breadth of the 30 states of the Federation. In some instances, they were not able to attend. They were able to detail individuals to represent them at such fora where they had some interactions with the youth. The issue of reaching out the youth does not in any way vitiate the fact that you need a structure to even organize. For instance, if you want to reach out to youth in Rivers, and you say it doesn't matter that you don't want to deal with the governor in that state, your ability to have an effective interaction with the youth in Rivers will require that you also have the buy-in of the governor of that state, who is even also very closer to those youths. We are not undermining the youth. When you look at our policy, it is the only document where you see the issues of the youth. Number one, issue of education. In the last almost 80 months now, the youths have been at home. The article says in his 5-point agenda that the educational sector will be given a priority attention, such that our students will no longer, our children will no longer have cause to stay at home rather than being in the classrooms for upward of 8 months. Beyond that, a number of other issues in the economic spheres, which borders on bringing back the jobs. Who are those you want to give the jobs back to? It's largely, majorly the youths. And so if that is the case, it is not just a question of taking the youth to the streets. We are looking at those things that will speak to the need, to the challenges confronting the youths. And once we're able to build them, we are not just building for tomorrow, we are building for today. And so that we are meeting with very well-known members of the party does not in any way mean we are undermining any other person. We just need these vehicles, in which case this wedding planner, to be able to have a very successful wedding, because once we're able to reach out to these structures across the length and breadth of the Federation, would have been able to make it easy to also reach out to individuals who one way or the other are aligned to these structures. If other persons like the Labour Party you mentioned says they don't have structure, how are they organizing their rallies? Do they just wake up on the street, everybody will just wake up? The man who says, please, we are going to have a rally on tomorrow, and please come to a particular point by 8 o'clock, and when you are coming, come with this and this and that. And sometimes they hire vehicles that will be playing music and people are moving. What is that? That is a structure. They are able to organize it because they have a structure. The only thing is that ability of that structure to interpret how to mobilize the voters. For you to bring up people across the length and breadth of 36 states of the Federation, it is not because the youth were dreaming and in their dream, they were able to see that everybody have to be on the street. And then in the morning, they decided to interpret the dream by jumping to the streets. It was the structure that mobilized them, gave them the date, gave them the time, gave them the starting point, and where they are going to converge at the end of the day. So when individual says the party that doesn't have structure, they are already building structures. What is important is whether you are be able to put it to become much more organic or much more centralized. Whichever way you want to look at it, everybody needs the structure to be, even in your home. When you and your wife sit down and you are discussing whether to even give birth to children, how many children you are going to have, and then where you are going to stop, what kind of education you are going to give them. That is the structure of the family. The wife and the husband become the first structure. When they give birth and then they have the first daughter, second son, and say, okay, let us stop here. Let us go and live in Wuye, or let's go and live in Asokoro. It is the structure that is taking that decision. So individuals must not just make it look as if, when we talk about structure, that it is one thing that cannot be assessed. Those parties are already building their own structure. We are also going to retain our structure, even as we continue to canvass for more persons to join our fold, because we are quite convinced that the only party that have got the ability to solve the challenges we have now, not based on sentiments, is the PDP. It is a party that is qualified to be called the GOP, the good old party. It is today the oldest party, the only party that have maintained its identity in terms of name, in terms of flag, in terms of logo. Unlike other parties that they are coming, today they go, some persons just want a regime change. We must know that if we must grow this democracy, we need to encourage this good old party so that we begin to have a tradition. The reason why people jump from one political party to the other is because over time we have not been able to develop an ideology. And you will need parties that are consistent for you to gradually develop that ideology so that individuals can wake up and say, okay, I'm in PDP, but for this year, I want to vote for a candidate who is not in PDP, because he will still remain in his party, he does not need to jump. But you see even governors jumping from their political party to another political party. You recall then, as a presenter on a political platform, I came up with one phrase when we were describing the then APP. And we said that if you want to study how to jump in a political party, what we call political jumpology, you do not need to write any thesis. Go and photocopy the then APP. You will see how people jump from one place to the other. And over time, that political jumpology became a thing that is prevalent in almost everywhere. But we do hope that as long as we continue to build and strengthen our democratic journey, we will now begin to have parties that will begin to develop full ideology such that jumpology will become a thing of the past.
All right, so you are taking youths into consideration, I hear you say, but some of these youths, when you speak to them on the streets, they tell you that they prefer now someone who is much younger to lead them at this time, particularly somebody who understands their plight, who has been speaking to them as well. And the Presidential Council, Campaign Council of your party has 600 members, and I understand is only 5% of them are youth. So these are some of the holes that the youths are picking in your party, which does seem to them like they are not being carried along.
No, there are a whole lot of youth inclusion in the Presidential Campaign Council. But beyond that, it's important that we carry the youth along. But we need to begin to look at these issues of either youth or the elderly. The governor of Kogi State is not a very old man. Compare what he has done in Kogi and what some other persons you think they are old have done in their different states. Sometimes it's not just about your age. It is about the determination in your mind. Biden is very soon he will be 80 years. Is he not the president of America? So even if we have a president who is even 75, 76, 77 years, what we need is not the age. At that moment, we also need his experience. We need his commitment to be able to add value, to recognize that there are certain needs and challenges that we need to address. If you bring on board a 35-year-old president and you say you are happy that you have a young president, and then the only thing he does is to go to one club and then drink himself to stupor. How has that age benefit? Has it been of benefit to you? And so for us in the PDP, we will continue to pay attention to the youths, and the party is very much, particularly Atiku, is very much interested in the youths. If you come to, for instance, what we are doing in Delta, where his running mate is holding sway as the governor, you will see a whole lot of empowerment schemes that we have unfolded to be able to accommodate you, to make them entrepreneurs. It's not just to speak to what sounds nice to the ears of the youth. It's better to address those challenges that confront them so that it becomes more real, that you are taking them out of the woods. This issue of looking for what sounds nice, I remember when Buhari was coming on board, they said, no, he doesn't have money. He has just very few cows. And everybody said, since this man doesn't have so much money, it will be better for us. Are we looking for a poor man to be president so that he can govern well? What we need is the man that have got the ideas. The sentiment of, if you also recall when Jonathan was coming, they said, no, he has no shoe when he was growing up. And in the course of time, before he finished ended his administration, even when he was doing very well, I do know some persons were saying, next time you see somebody coming to you say he doesn't have a shoe, please, instead of electing him as a president, go and buy him a shoe. Those were some of the issues. But this time around, Atiku is coming with a work plan. It is not about not having a shoe. It is not about being a poor man. Those are sentimental issues. You recall also in the case of Buhari, out of the sentiments, individuals said even if he doesn't have a certificate, even if it's NEPA bill, it doesn't matter. We have gone beyond where individuals will say it doesn't matter. It does matter. We need the ability of that person to speak to the issues. In this whole contest, go and check it out, leave the sentiments. Atiku is the only one speaking to the issues. I saw one the other day pretending to be riding a bike in the form of exercise, as if we were going to one club for the purpose of showing who has strength, even if that bicycle riding was several months back. What we are talking about is the ideas you are bringing to the table. As we speak up to today, I challenge any of the other presidential candidates and their followers to show us what is their manifesto. Atiku says, this is what I'm going to do, and you can read it, whether online or offline. Others are only just telling you, look, the Naira has gone down. We know. Even the baby now knows that you can no longer buy a loaf of bread for 200 Naira as it was in 2015. Their parents have informed them that in 2015, they were buying rice as low as 7,000 naira for a 50 kg bag. So we don't need to come and tell them. They already know. But tell them, what do you want to do to improve their purchasing power, so that even if the rise is 25,000 or 30,000, you have been able to erase their purchasing power to meet up with what inflation have taken away from their pocket. Those are going to be the real issues, and not the sentiments of somebody playing to the gallery. We will not play to the gallery. We speak to the issues, and at the end of the day, we are quite confident that when we come on board, Atiku Okowa will be able to address these challenges. I can stake my integrity on that.
All right, I hear you talk about ageism, relativity between the young and the old, and you gave an analogy of a 35-year-old person, if elected president, might have the pitfall of being, ending up in a club. So maybe some youths would rather say, are you trying to juxtapose youth with a sense of rascality? Does age have anything to do with, value and character? Isn't it about ability? Isn't it about capacity? And isn't it about knowledge?
No. I just gave you an analogy. I'm not saying that every youth will go and end up in a club. I'm only saying, after all, you also have elders who also end up after drinking and then falling by the wayside. I only just give you an analogy between, instead of maybe having somebody who is even 75 and is well behaved, and having somebody who is 35 and is not well behaved, which one will you choose? At that moment, you see that age is not a common denominator. I am mentioning that not because I want to denigrate the youths. The youths are very, very wonderful. They have done so well for us as a country. They have made a whole lot of contributions. They have been able to even reawaken our consciousness in a number of directions. A number of the reasons why we have even witnessed a lot of development today is because of agitation that comes from the youth. So the analogy I gave is not in any way referring to the Nigerian youth. I was just giving you an analogy as to what should work and what we should look out for, and not just the issue of age, because age cannot be the real thing to determine whether somebody is going to govern well or not in this instance, particularly when the person is not senile. That is actually what I meant. Okay. And so, but having said that, I have also made it clear to you that the Atiku Okowa mandate is a mandate that is going to look after the youths, to be able to take them out of the woods, to get them empowered, for them to even begin to rise up, to seek for these positions we are talking about. Even if you have somebody of 35 years now wanting to be a president in Nigeria, the economy has dealt a very serious blow on them that they are not even able to mobilize the resources to so do. And so we need to first of all get out of the woods, in which case you now have youth who become very innovative, who have been able to create a whole lot of wealth for themselves legitimately, and who now realize that there are so many things that matter beyond the number of other issues that may be attracting their attention at the moment. Once that is done, you will see that it becomes easier for us to even have somebody of 35 years aspiring. He will be well known. He would have been able to make a whole lot of contributions because the economy and bad leadership is not pressing him down. And that is what we need to fight first, to get the youth to be able to rise and realize their God-given potentials. Good enough in Nigeria, we have a whole lot of youths who are very enabled, who are well endowed in a number of areas. But unfortunately, bad governance have not made it possible for them to realize these are potentials. When you see the youth agitating and when they go to the streets, they are not demonstrating against a particular individual. They are only saying that the system is not working. And in short, we must commend the youth for speaking up, because a number of their colleagues have not even been able to endure what's happening. And that is why we are hearing this word, Japa. That is, they just try to get out of the country. Just visit any of these foreign embassies today. Even when it is raining. The other day I went to pick up my passport. I saw even under the rain, people were queuing under the rain to just go and have visa interview. And that is because things have gone very, very low, particularly in the last 7 years. And so if you see those who are staying back and say, no, we need to get things to work, you will have to commend them. And because they want a country that functions. And that country that functions is what Atiku is bringing to the table. And I can assure you, with the Atiku plan, with the Atiku covenant with Nigerian people, a number of these issues that agitate the minds of the youth will be addressed. And at the end of the day, by the grace of God, we'll have a country that functions and function efficiently for all of us.
Okay, just staying on that thought about function. You've spoken about the youth, and I'm really bringing this to the fore because this is a population that has 8 million more Nigerians that have registered in the last registration bout with INEC, and so it's a huge currency. Now, I mean, His Excellency has said when he and if he's elected, will dedicate 40% of his cabinet to youth and women. But then I go back to what Nkoli said earlier about the makeup and you know, the population of the council, you look about just 5% of that, and within that council you have only about 3.2% for women. How do we now begin to resonate with, if he wins, if charity cannot begin at home from now? So we want to see that take effect from preparation during this campaign, because that is what will bring believability if he wins the election. Where are the women?
I hope you know that within the campaign council that we also have directorates. And within those directorates, we also have different units where individuals are playing different roles. That you have the head, maybe the deputy DG in charge of a particular directorate being above 50 does not mean that everybody within that directorate is above 50. But beyond that, we are not just interested in giving people fish. I gave you an analogy of the wedding planner and the couple. That you employ the services of a wedding planner does not mean that that wedding planner becomes more important than the guest that will be coming to attend the wedding. The campaign council is like the wedding planner. They are just helping to galvanize different persons, put them together, and help us to carry out our campaign. That does not in any way make the members of the campaign council more important than even those who are not members of that campaign council. I can assure you that there are those who may not even be in that campaign council that will even perform far, far better and much more effectively than those who are in the council, because they may be more committed. It is possible to have somebody in the council who is looking for whether there will be some money that will fall by the wayside for him to enrich himself, while the person who is outside may be spending his own personal funds. Between that person who is making the sacrifice of spending his own personal funds to galvanize the voters, and the one who is in the council and waiting for maybe a particular private vehicle to be provided for him so that he can perform, who is more effective and who is more committed? And so when you begin to just look at the council, even if we have youths, even within the council, and you begin to use the council as a yardstick as to what we are going to do, it means that you are looking at the wedding planner to determine how well you will value the guests that will attend your wedding. The job of the wedding planner is just to ensure that everything about that wedding is in place. But the guest list will come from you. It is not also only just about appointments, which is more like giving people fish. It is about teaching the people how to fish, which is creating the enabling environment for them to realize their God-given potentials. So even when you don't even give somebody an appointment, which I'm not saying is going to happen, but you're able to provide that enabling environment so that even if they want to do business, they're able to engage properly. That is much more important. Talking about giving people appointment is like when I hear people say, no, how come this man is not commiserating? I say, do I need a president to commiserate those who loses people on a daily basis? Between the president who writes already a prototype, what's it called, condolence message, that the only thing they used to do now is to fix the name and say we commiserate with this community that have been sacked by bandits. And every other week you are seeing such a commiseration. Between a president who is doing that regularly and a president who does not even commiserate with you, but he stops the killing of people in their communities by bandits, which one will you prefer? Because oftentimes you hear people just say, he has not commiserated. I'm not looking for a president to commiserate with my community or with my people. Let him prevent my people from being killed. Let him make sure that there are policies that make my people not to die of starvation. The other day, the spokesperson of the APC he wanted to be smart by half in trying to defend the same faith ticket. And luckily, the real truth in him came out when he said that Nigerians are very hungry. And he didn't know when he said that he had a problem with the leadership of his party. The truth is that this real spirit in him spoke the truth, that Nigerians are hungry on account of the abysmal performance of the APC-led government. And so for us, we are interested in how do we put this hunger back to the fringes so that people can afford to eat again, even if starting from 2 square meals and then possibly move on to 3, than the one we're having now of not even having one at all. And so let's begin to face what the real issues are. The issues are very well known to us. The division where we no longer have trust among the different ethnic groups and among the religious divide, as well as the geopolitical divide. The situation where we don't have trust, even among the demographics, so to the extent that you have a young person not trusting an elderly person, or an elderly person wanting to denigrate the young persons who are full of talents. You have men wanting to say that women are this or women accusing men. We have a situation where the economy is so bad that you cannot even create jobs, and our naira is bouncing much more like a football. We also have a situation where insecurity has become the order of the day. We have a situation where you cannot even travel by road for a distance of even 3 kilometers. These are well-known issues. Who will address them so that life becomes better for us is what matters. That is the real issue. Not who is just talking a story or making it look as if he's going to make a difference. Let me tell you, almost each and every one of the individuals who are the 18 of them that have come forward to seek for the office of the president, I want to say, means well. They mean well for this country. They want to be able to add value. But once you begin to look through, you begin to separate the boys from the men. You will know those who understand what the issues are and how to solve those problems. Not those who just say, I want to be president, and then he goes out, read one book, speak all the beautiful grammar, and then he looks for those things that will be exciting, and he tells you, and say, this man is a very nice man. No. Go and look at their antecedents. That is the very, very constant. It's there for us to look at. What have they done in the past? How have they contributed? You see, like APC, they are running away from contesting from their records. They will always take you to Lagos. And I'm waiting for them. The day I will meet them on set. Let them tell me about that Lagos so that we'll discuss that Lagos. That same Lagos where you cannot even move out. It's the distance of 2 kilometers. You will stay there for 4 hours. That's the Lagos they are giving us as an example. That Lagos where a very known member of the APC, I'm talking about Governor Rufai, have said that if you want to go to heaven, you don't even need to be in the church or even in the mosque. Just go and live in Lagos because you would have already experienced hell on earth. That is the same Lagos they are giving to us as an example. I pray that I don't meet them on set for them to be using Lagos to give me an example. We will remind them that if they don't know Lagos, we have lived in Lagos, we visit Lagos, and we know what Lagos look like. But because their performance at the national level is very, very abysmal, they are running away from their real record, which is supposed to be their record. They are going back to the record of a state that you have one governor almost governing from 1999 to 2022 up to the present day. And yet, not much difference has been made in the life of the people who live there. So please, when next they tell you that their credential is what they did in Lagos, tell them that when it rains, everywhere is flooded in Lagos. Tell them that when people want to go to a place in the morning, somebody wakes up 4 a.m. when I'm still enjoying my sleep. He says he's going to work, yet 11 o'clock he's still on the road. That is the Lagos they want us to copy. Is that the kind of thing they want to bring to Nigeria? So for us, we are going to, by the grace of God, talk about a country that functions for all of us, and not a Lagos that they are telling us that is not even adding value to the standard of living of the people who live there. A Lagos that Rufai has very well defined, and that's the Lagos they want to give as an example. We are even happy they are using that example because obviously they don't have anything to showcase. That's why they are still referring to Lagos.
All right, Mr. Aniagwu, let's speak to these issues you're talking about now. The problems are well known, you said. How Atiku will actualize these plans is one thing. Now, the gridlock you're talking about in Lagos is already surfacing in Abuja. So if care is not taken, what happened to Lagos would also happen to Abuja. And so I'm asking now, if your candidate becomes the president, what exactly or how would he bring Nigerians out of this hunger which you spoke about? You know, tell us exactly what this plan is all about and how he wants to actualize it.
I'm happy that up to 2015, you were in Abuja. We were always working together. You know that the kind of traffic congestion you see now in Abuja was not there in 2015. There are 2 factors that have contributed to the kind of congestion you see in Abuja. One is the fact that the APC-led government have not been able to even construct any new roads since 2015 when they came on board. It's just the ones done in the PDP years. And that's why even if Rufai is in APC, I must commend him. When he was the minister of the FCT between 2003 and 2007, he performed wonderfully well. The same thing Bala Muhammad, when he also head through as the minister of the FCT. Both of them did very, very well to expand the road network in FCT. Another challenge that has also triggered the kind of traffic you are now seeing in the FCT now is the issue of insecurity that have driven many persons from the fringes of the country, from the other northern parts of the country, into the capital territory where they believe they could have some form of respite. And so those are some of the challenges. And Atiku is very, very clear on what he's going to do, particularly with the issue of security. He has a 5-point agenda, starting from the issue of how to unite Nigerians to ensure that every part of this country feel a sense of belonging. You'll recall that in the PDP days, there was nothing like IPOB having to declare a day of no work in the Southeast. Yes, there were certain demands, but to a very large extent, starting from the Obasanjo-Atiku administration, you could see the distribution of positions in the federal cabinet, that every part of this country, every religion, every geographical divide, every ethnic group was very well represented.
All right.
If you also come to the security apparatus at that time, you will see that every geopolitical divide and every other thing that tend to be that makes us diverse was well taken care of. But in the last 7 years, the very abysmal management of these issues of diversity has contributed largely to the woes that we're experiencing today. Atiku will not fall into that trap because a man who is not only very detribalized, but a man who believes that everybody, particularly the best, need to be brought on board.
All right, Mr.
And in
Aniagwu,
tackling the issue of security, he says he will unveil a welfare package, presidential welfare package, to take care of those who toil day and night while we sleep in our homes. And that's the security personnel.
Okay.
He also says, beyond the fact that he's going to equip them with necessary leather weapons, that he's also going to ensure that there is going to be continuous interface, engagement with state actors and non-state actors. In the case of non-state actors, to understand the psychology behind the kind of actions they engage in, with a view to either addressing those issues or determining the appropriate measures to be taken for the purpose of eliminating such tendencies.
All right.
Beyond that, Atiku says when he's going to bring in people to head the different security agencies, he is not going to be looking at ethnicity. He's not going to be looking at religion.
Mr. Aniagwu, we're about to round up.
He is going to look at competence and integrity, such that even if you are a Christian and from Mbise in the southeast, and you are the man who can do the job, Atiku will ignore the Fulani man and give it to you. And that's what he says he's going to do. And you know what? Why do I believe that he will do it? Because he has demonstrated it before. Look at his contribution. You may need to go and read the history of the performance of the Obasanjo administration in the first 8 years of our return to democracy. And you will see the very bold footprints of Atiku Abubakar in hunting for talents. Needn't I remind you of those many eggheads who were not even in the political circle but performed very, very creditably in the Obasanjo days? I know the name of Ukonjo Iweala rings a very loud bell in your head. I know you also you remember the lives of Chukwuma Soludo. I know you have not forgotten Obi Ezekwesili. I know you also remember the role of the man I mentioned a while ago, even if he's in the wrong party now, but I hope he will come back, Erofai, who is more or less a byproduct of PDP, and many others
Mr.
who we refer them as
think
technocrats. Their contribution in that administration, go and trace how it came about. You also need to remember the issue of how the EFCC came on board, the due process office, the issue of a reform in the capital market, the issue of reform in the banking sector, the change we have with respect to the telecommunication sector. These are issues that we witness, which many of our young boys today may not have known how it came about. Go there and see Atiku's very bold footprints working with Obasanjo, and with the political will of Obasanjo, they were able to do that.